Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello.
And on this weird first quarter of the year where literally nothing's happening. Literally nothing's going on other than Dragon Ball Z Kakarot's pretty damn good. There's this sort of conversation going on as to the latest effects, the latest technology in regards to video game hair.
Yes.
Now this dates back to December last year. It was originally reported on by FX Guide, who picked up on the fact that the new Unreal Engine, or the latest Unreal Engine from Epic, has this new plugin that allows for hyper-realistic hair effects, led by this engineer called Charles de Roussier, I believe.
Very nice.
I think it's Charles de Roussier. And so back in December we started getting word of, there were screenshots out there. It was like, oh my god, look at this fancy sort of hair. The latest thing though is this dude called Jonathan Cooper, who's a ex-dev for Naughty Dog, Ubisoft, BioWare, and a handful of other high-tier devs, sharing a in-motion clip of what it looks like when this hair works. And I didn't necessarily think, I was like, oh, that's some kind of cool hair. And then JP used the words, I'm blown away.
Well, this is
so
the thing,
let's talk about it.
I know we made a joke about this kind of perhaps being a slow news week at the beginning of this video, but when you did send this to me, I was genuinely like, whoa. I did like the Keanu Reeves, whoa, entire shtick, because when it comes to sort of video game, things video games fail to get right. For me, it's always been hair, and it's been taking a drink and making that look realistic. But when it comes to, games like Mass Effect 2, which has some of my favorite game of all time, perhaps, but it has some of the worst hair of all time. It looks even more Lego-y than mine does in real life. Like it just doesn't work, and I always feel like it's been a weird sort of sticking point for the industry as a whole, where you get into this kind of uncanny valley thing where some things look so photorealistic, and yet some elements like hair or sometimes some animations just look so off that it can't help but take you out of it. And when I saw this, little tech demo thing, I was genuinely quite shocked about how realistic it flowed and how realistic it looked. Because I remember when, we're going to talk about it soon, but when Tomb Raider had its, was it the Tress Effects?
Called Tress Effects.
The Tress Effects back in 2013. And I remember being so genuinely, bitterly disappointed that that wasn't included in the console releases, because of course it couldn't, because rendering hair is so difficult, because you have to make it look realistic. But the only way for you to make it look realistic is to have so many different individual strands, which takes up so much computational power that many devs just don't think it's worth
Well, that's the thing. It's weird, because it is a more worthwhile thing to talk about than you might think, because for the longest time, so many devs have struggled to get hair right. And I remember back on as a huge wrestling fan across the early 2000s, all the SmackDown games, it was always like, Jeff Gerstmann for Giant Bomb has mentioned this, that you can tell how far video games have come based on the latest representation of Triple H's hair. Now, eventually he shaved all of his hair off.
So you can't have that barometer anymore.
No, but those old school models always exist in the games. But Triple H's hair, as an example, or anyone with long hair, it used to just be a block that was always sort of attached to a character model, and it wasn't really anything special. Tomb Raider came along and tried to pioneer strand-based hair, but they didn't have, like you said, enough computational power to have like millions of hair fibers. So in Tomb Raider, it just looked like a weird sort of noodle pile that was like freaking out and going everywhere when she was running around. For me, that didn't look, like realistic enough. You could kind of like tweak it a little bit, and I think going forward, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider have amazing hair. We're going to talk about really good hair for a bit, because we talked about this before we came in. Because the more we talked about it, we realized that there are weird milestones in gaming for for hair.
Well,
but it's also, as another wider ramification of it, I was starting to think, I wonder if this is the reason why so many characters have either short hair or they're bald. Because if I start looking into awesome hair, other than like Geralt, who like you can rarely let it just go like full flow, for the most part, his is like nearly always in a ponytail, but like, is this going to be a new generation of long-haired characters?
Well, this is it, Scott Selfer. You mentioned the ponytail there, which is, I think, so pressing, because I think you can tell when a game isn't entirely confident in its hair effects, because they will have a long-haired character, and then they'll conveniently tuck it away. We saw that with Sam Bridges in Death Stranding, who Norman Reedus obviously has the longer hair, but after the first couple of hours, the character ties it up, and then you don't really see it very much unless you take it out.
He looks weird with it like back as well.
He does.
When someone's like they've made like a ponytail too tight, and it's like all their whole face is like
go back. You're like that old lady in Brazil. Have you seen that, where like she's got the hooks in and the face is going back?
I was thinking more like the dude from Men in Black at the very beginning.
Very similar things. Yeah, he's made of like sugar water, isn't he? But I think as well, when it comes to sort of like this demo, the next generation isn't going to be defined by these gigantic overhauls. It's going to be in the small things that we sort of might not seem entirely pressing, but adds so much to the overall immersion of a game. And we were talking before we came in about Red Dead Redemption 2. For my money, that game doesn't have the best sort of hair model or the best hair physics, but when you are looking at the moon or the sun and the light is coming through it, it looks so realistic and it's so immersive to see that. And I do think when going forward, it will be these smaller details, these smaller touches like this that are way more difficult to program than you might think. Well, that are finally, you know, catching up with the, you know, lip syncing or the facial animation and stuff.
Well, we did a list a while ago, a couple of weeks ago, on like ways games blew your mind without you even realizing. And it's like, as someone who grew up with games, like both of us, I remember when like it was the smaller things that games were sold on. I remember when Halo 3 was like, I mean, there's obviously millions of reasons to get excited for Halo 3 at the time, but that game's water effects were incredibly unique at the time, where it was this weird sort of nav mesh thing that would move and fluctuate and create buoyancy and things like that. And it was like that idea of getting liquid right in a game was a big old deal, and they still, like you said, haven't necessarily nailed it. I remember in one of the Splinter Cells, there's a bit where Sam Fisher sits down with another character and pours a drink, and the camera zooms right in on the drink to be like, oh, look at how fancy this is. I think it might be in Chaos Theory or Pandora Tomorrow. And little things like that, where it's like, you know, you don't realize how much of an effect they're going to have, how many different applications they have until they do it. Same with foliage. Like for the longest time, so many devs were using speed tree, and every single tree was just two flat planes intersected.
That's it. Yeah, there are a bunch of games that like I can point to that might not be excellent games, but they had those features that genuinely kind of shook me to my core, because I'm easily shook to my core. I remember 2 Rock 2008. Can you remember that game? Of course you can't. No one can remember 2 Rock 2008.
No, I love Turok. I thought you said 2 Rock. And I was like 2 Worlds.
It's just the way I pronounced it.
No, Turok is great. I love that game. Loads of people don't love 2008 Turok, but
for some reason
you can shoot a Velociraptor in the knees. It'll fall over, and you can run in with your knife and just go for it.
But you know what's even more impressive than that? It was the first game, at least to my knowledge, like you said, that had the foliage that you could push through. It wouldn't just disappear. And I remember that added so much to the stealth. The stealth in that game wasn't great, but sneaking through, you know, like the overgrown grass and the bushes felt like genuinely quite tense as you were pushing it around. I remember playing The Last of Us for the first time, quite late as well on the PlayStation 4. And I think there's a bit at the beginning when Tess pours a drink into a little cup. In the water, like the liquid physics looks so realistic. And it's those small details. They don't make or break a game by any means, but when you see them, they are, you know, you kind of appreciate them so much when they're done right. And because they're so often done wrong, you kind of just, you let them fade to the background, they don't jump out at you. But when you do see them, they do make a difference.
Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of, obviously some of the comments to this stuff on Twitter was just saying, look, I'm sick of the teasers, I'm sick of the things that are like, you know, sort of on the periphery of this massive announcement that, I was going to say we know is coming. We still don't full on know that it's coming, but apparently it's the worst kept secret in gaming right now, that we are going to see the PS5 or the PS5 tech on like the 5th of February. So
hopefully.
They're cutting it pretty damn short, or pretty damn fine if it's going to be within the next couple of weeks. But as an overall question, do you think that this next generation is going to be a generation of refinement? Because how much, you know, you can try and make more realistic skin textures, you can, you know, like what else are they going to be able to do on the AAA graphics front other than perfect these sort of things?
I think so. I think just judging by the tech that's allegedly going to be in these new consoles, it feels like it's going to be a bigger jump than the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One or the PlayStation 3 to the PlayStation 4, but at the same time, I do think it's going to be those smaller refinements. If you look at games now, for me anyway, I can sort of see the cracks in the overall presentation. You can see the parts that don't quite hold up. The lighting looks gorgeous. The way, you know, characters are animated looks amazing. The facial animation is so realistic. Yet there are those little things like, you know, liquid or hair, or even sometimes the way, you know, you get stuck in kind of walls, or the court physics, the cloth physics kind of like flap around like they're completely glitching out. It's those little things that break immersion. And I think it's those things that will benefit much more from the next gen, because the next gen is going to bring in all of this extra computational power and all of this extra, you know, juice. And finally, devs won't have to sort of, you know, prioritize one thing or another. I feel like, and this is entirely me speculating, it's going to be, you know, the jump from the 360 to the Xbox One generation. And we had open world games back on the 360 that they were big, but they looked like dog. They didn't look very good at all. And then we got to the new generation, and you realize, oh wow, we can have our cake and eat it too. We can have these massive open worlds, and they can look stunning. They can be some of the best looking games of, you know, of all time. And I feel like that's sort of the similar jump we'll have with kind of like these things like hair or like character animations. And
it makes me think that, because stuff like this, it's so granular. Like, you know, it's like, it's pouring a drink out. It's you know, immaculately rendering, like ray tracing. It's like, oh, by the way, we perfected reflection. Something that we didn't even, for me, I'm like, I don't even need them really. But I guess in the moment, I'll notice a reflection and it'll somehow add to to the atmosphere or the environment or something. For me, it makes me think the other way around. I think that for all this sort of technology, it would benefit a more linear experience, a more focused storytelling experience, where you have these immaculate character models, immaculate facial animation, hair flowing everywhere, and characters pouring drinks for each other as they talk about something while in a reflection or whatever. I think that, I don't know, I kind of want, and like you said, the big open world boom, it was like, how big can we go? How like, over the top are we going to get? And obviously, you know, the likes of like The Witcher 3 perfected it, and Red Dead 2 is maybe the tipping point of like, we had, you know, massive amounts of work put into this across months and months and months to get this humongous game, but how many of us actually saw every single nook and cranny of it?
Well, that's a good point as well. I mean, like you said, that's such a huge game, and it costs more money and more time than 99% of developers and publishers are willing to spend on any given title, so that's why it looks so good. But it's, yeah, it is, like, I appreciate every single element that I notice in Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's how feasible is that? And when it comes to sort of, you know, the new hardware and the new tech, hopefully it does become more feasible. It doesn't require so much, you know, manpower to execute properly, but ultimately, I have no idea whether that's
the
true.
thing that I want, JP, is I want more long-haired characters. That's all I want.
Too,
I want to play as a metally man who looks like James Hetfield circa 1992.
If we can get this mess in a video game, like hairspray physics, make it happen.
You could code yours on the PS1. Yours doesn't move. It would be completely fine. Same with mine.
It is just a Lego block. That's all it is.
In the best way possible. But yes, let us know what you think down in the comments below of the potential future of hair in video games. For now, though, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
It's foliage, mate.
Foliage.
No.
Foliage.